Once again, Christian greetings to all our valued listeners and viewers throughout the whole world, more particularly to all Shepherd's Rod believers, and most especially to our beloved brothers and sisters in the United States of America. Special greetings to our brethren in Colorado, in Kansas, in Georgia, in Missouri, in Texas, in Chicago, Illinois, in Arkansas, in California, in New York, in Fiji Island, in Mexico, Spain, Africa, Zambia, Kenya, Pakistan, to the United Kingdom, to our brethren in Australia, and also to our brethren in Malaysia, and to the rest of the 144,000 living saints scattered abroad. Greetings. May the good Lord bless you, brothers and sisters. This is our episode number 4, the final warning message, just prior to the close of provision. And I would like to quote that statement on Testimonies to Ministers 475 saying, prophecy must be fulfilled. Prophecy must be fulfilled. In tract number 12, it says on page 57, thus the more sure word of prophecy, which never fails to tell the truth. So, the more sure word of prophecy never fails to tell the truth. And that's why, according to Evangelism 196, prophecy must be the foundation of our faith. The same with Daniel in Prophets and Kings 554. Prophets and Kings 554 says, with faith founded on the sure word of prophecy. So, with faith founded on the sure word of prophecy. That is the only faith that could withstand all the storms. The faith which is founded on the sure word of prophecy. And according to the Shepherd's Rod, in tract number 6 on page 4, it says, by the prophecies only can we prove or disprove. Tract number 6, page 4. By the prophecies only can we prove or disprove, know what we believe and believe what we know, and with safety accept or reject any message. And also in 2TG 24 on page 15, it says, here we are told that prophecy, a vision, is the acid test by which to judge purported Bible truth. That is, if the thing is not in prophecy, if there is no vision of it found in the writings of the prophets, then there is no truth in it. Yes, the visions of the prophets are to be our visions if we must be preserved. So, the prophecy, a vision, is the only acid test to judge purported Bible truth. And I remember the statement in tract number 14 on page 7. It says, indeed, the prophecies are given for no other reason than to illumine the traveler's steps to safety. Through knowledge shall the just be delivered. Tract number 14, page 7. Indeed, the prophecies are given for no other reason than to illumine the traveler's steps to safety. For through knowledge shall the just be delivered. And according to White House Recruiter, on page 27, the prophecies we all know are heaven's light to our feet. If we fail to open our eyes and hearts to them, at the time the Lord would have us profit by the unrolling of the scroll, how then shall we escape being like the blind, leading the blind? So the prophecies, it is our heaven's light to our feet in our spiritual journey. But if we fail to open our eyes and hearts to them, at the time the Lord would have us profit by the unrolling of the scroll, then how can we be able to escape being like the blind, lead by the blind leaders? Now, the Shepherd's Rod told us that of all the prophecies ever recorded in the Bible, the visitation of Christ is the most remarkable one. So let us read again in tract number 1 on page 5. It says, the call of Ezekiel to the prophetic office is one of the most interesting experiences of the ancient seers, and the revelation of what he saw by the river Chibar is perhaps of greater importance to heaven and earth at this time than is any other vision on sacred record, because in a remarkable way it reveals that which unites heaven with earth, even as the Dardanelles links two important seas. Thus, this study of Ezekiel's vision, which brings to light earth being visited by the majesty of the universe, may be aptly termed the Dardanelles of the Bible. Tract number 1 on page 5. Now, since that predicted event is the most remarkable one of all the vision, of all the prophecy ever recorded in the Bible, brothers and sisters, we need to seriously study the fulfillment of such predicted event. And I do fully believe that there is no reason for our Almighty God that He will withhold unto us concerning such information of such predicted event. And in tract number 1 on page 36, the question says, when will this chariot arrive? How long will it stay? Tract number 1, page 36. When will this chariot arrive? How long will it stay? So that is the question given by the voice of inspiration. Now, here on tract number 1 on page 12, let's read again. It says, in the clear light of these facts, chapter 9 is seen to hold the climactic scene of the vision, describing the awful work which the Lord is to do when, with the cherubim, He visits the earth. It shows the fearsome consequences to those who reject its message. Its blessings miss, the kingdom lost. Tragic, frightful experience. It shall be the fate of all who refuse now to awake and to know about it, but who choose rather to remain in ignorance of its truth and of the object of the Lord's coming in His throne. In the days of Beti-Hotep predict the event and woe unto them who reject such revelation. But how much more in the time when such predicted events are being fulfilled, that the earth is being visited by the majesty of the universe. Now, I would like to make a comparison with the first advent of Jesus Christ. And accordingly, it was illustrated in the vision of Isaiah, in Isaiah 66, verse 7. Now, let us read again 1 TG number 45. So, it says here, in 1 TG number 45, page 15. Isaiah 66, verse 7. Before she travailed, she brought forth. Before her pain came, she was delivered of a man-child. Then it says, for a woman to be delivered of a child before she travails and before her pain comes is an incredible thing, a miracle. And that is just what happened to the church when the Lord was born in the manger of Bethlehem. The church knew not her visitation, and though she felt no need of a Savior, travailed not. Yet she brought forth the child. 1 TG 45 on page 15. Here's another description. In 1 TG 49, page 7, it says here, Isaiah 66, verse 7, before she travailed, she brought forth. Before her pain came, she was delivered of a man-child. The Jewish church, the church into which and by which Jesus was born, inspiration declares, neither travailed nor had pain. That is, she felt neither need of nor burden for a Savior. And yet, in spite of it, He was born. In 1SR, page 169, 1SR page 169, it says, 1 SR 169, this refers to the church at the time Christ came. She did not expect him, travailed not, nor did she feel or know when he came. Though she was not worthy, she was delivered of a man-child. In page 179, 1 SR, it says, the woman is the Old Testament church in the days of Christ. 1 SR, page 179. The woman is the Old Testament church in the days of Christ. Christ is the man-child whom she brought forth, but she travailed not, neither did she have pain. That is, she knew him not. She felt no pain of deliverance, as it would be a miracle for a woman to give birth to a child in this way. So it was a miracle that Christ was born to that unworthy mother, Jewish church, because she had backslidden. 1 SR, page 179. I would like to read 1 SR 135. 1 SR, page 135. It says, these 13 chapters of Isaiah are one continuous letter written for the church. Though they had been in the Bible for many centuries, they were intended for us at this present time and stand as a direct epistle to the church now. The 54th chapter is the beginning of the letter, and it ends with the 66th chapter. 1 SR, page 135. So, the Shepherd's Rod made it so plain that the last 13 chapters of the book of Isaiah, it was written directly to the church from 1844. Therefore, the illustration in Isaiah 54 to Isaiah 66, which is applied in the past, is only the type, the groundwork. I remember the statement on the old Symbolic Code. Let me see if I could find that statement. On 3 Symbolic Code, 11 to 12, on page 14. 3 Symbolic Code, 11 to 12, page 14. It says, and now, my brethren, in view of the fact that you will be compelled sooner or later officially to reject the message of the Shepherd's Rod, if you do not accept it, my earnest appeal to you is that you make sure that you are not us, verily staining your hands in the blood of Christ, as did the Jewish church, of whom you profess to be the antitype, and are thus not crucifying him afresh and putting him to an open shame by rejecting his truth. So here the statement very plain that the Seventh-day Adventist Church is the antitypical Jewish church. So since the last 13 chapters in the book of Isaiah is a direct epistle, a continuous letter addressed to God's church from 1844. So Isaiah 66 verse 7, the antitype must be the Seventh-day Adventist Church. Now, I would like to read tract number 14. Here in tract number 14, on page 32, it says, the high points of this confederacy, some of which are still unfulfilled, fall into sequence thusly. So the statement is very plain. Prophecies which are still unfulfilled. Now, I would like to read enumeration number 2. It says, the birth of a man-child, Emmanuel, to a virgin for a sign to the house of David. Isaiah 7 verse 13 and 14. So the birth of a man-child, it is still unfulfilled. So the perfect fulfillment of that man-child did not as yet been fulfilled in the past. And we know the man-child is Jesus Christ. And the first advent of Jesus Christ, the groundwork, which is the type, Jesus Christ was born of a woman in Bethlehem. But the Jewish church, they did not know that the Messiah was physically born. So I would like to read here in tract number 3. Tract number 3 on page 56. It says, the Son of Man, he who soweth the good seed, is of course none other than Christ. But as he could not be called the Son of Man before being born of a woman, he accordingly could not have sowed the good seed of the spiritual harvest until after his birth in Bethlehem in Judea. So when Jesus Christ was born in Bethlehem in Judea, he was born of a woman. So that statement in the Bible in Galatians chapter 4, in reality cannot be applied directly to the first advent of Jesus Christ. By which the statement says, made of a woman. And even if you will look at the footnote, it is Genesis 3 verse 15. He says, but when the fullness of the time was come, Galatians 4 verse 4, but when the fullness of the time was come, God sent forth his Son, made of a woman, made under the law. Galatians 4 verse 4. So, it says, made of a woman. It did not say, born of a woman. Do not forget, brethren, that the birth of the man-child is a sign given by God to the house of David. I would like to read tract number 14, page 32. The birth of a man-child, Emmanuel, to a virgin for a sign to the house of David. So this is the sign given by God to the house of David. And in the Old Symbolic Code, let's read the statement here. Old Symbolic Code, 3 Symbolic Code, number 2, page 3. 3 Symbolic Code, number 2, page 3, it says, and now, in the time of the ingathering of modern Israel, the 144,000 who are to make up the antitypical house of David. So who are they to make up the antitypical house of David? The 144,000 living saints. So the birth of a man-child to a virgin, it did not say the birth of a man-child from a virgin, because that is the first advent of Jesus Christ, born of a woman. But rather, it says to a virgin. And of course, in this study, I would like to address to Matthew 25, to the 5 wise virgins. Now it says here, the birth of a man-child, Emmanuel, to a virgin, for a sign to the house of David. We already read in 3 Symbolic Code, number 2, page 3, that the house of David, the antitypical house of David, is pointing to the 144,000 living saints. And that is the sign that had been given by God to them, to the 144,000 living saints. What is the sign? The birth of a man-child. Who is the man-child? Jesus Christ. But some, brothers and sisters, are illustrated by the attitude of King Ahaz in Isaiah 7 and verse 11. It says, as thee a sign of the Lord thy God, as it either in the depth or in the height above. But Ahaz said, I will not ask, neither will I tempt the Lord. So that is the attitude of King Ahaz, by which demonstrated the attitude of those who will fail to obtain the seal of the living God, because they completely deny the absolute sign given by God to the 144,000. So that admonition on 7 BC 970, saying that let us strive with all the power that God has given us to be among the 144,000 living saints. So we need to exert desperate effort. In 2TG number 4, on page 15, it says, your knowledge of these things, though will not benefit you if you do not make a desperate effort to be one of or one with the 144,000. So our knowledge, all of us, the Berean, we have knowledge that there is a 144,000 living saints to be translated to heaven without seeing death. But our knowledge concerning about the 144,000 in reality would not benefit us if we will not make a desperate effort to be one of or one with the 144,000. For example, brothers and sisters, according to Tract number 1. I would like to read this reading. Tract number 1 on page 23. The message, moreover, finding them in the church, not in the world. They are therefore virgins, that is, not defiled with women, according to Revelation 14 verse 4. The churches of the world, and they are without guile in their mouths, having kept their tongues from criticizing and fault-finding. So why is it that the Bible gives the description concerning the 144,000? In Revelation 14, verse 4 and 5 then. The description of the 144,000. They have no guile in their mouths. So, to strive with all our power, or with all the power that God has given us to be among that special company, then according to the Shepherd's Rod, we need to keep our tongues from criticizing and fault-finding. So, if we'll be saying, brothers and sisters, that it is our desire that if possible to be among that special company, but at the same time, we continually criticize and continually have that fault-finding spirit, then think it thoroughly, brothers and sisters, if we will be worthy to be among that special company, 144,000 living saints. Now let us push forward to our study. In 1TG number 11, I would like to read that statement. In 1TG number 11, page 11, 1TG number 11, on page 11, it says, so only those who survive the judgment for the living in the house of God, 1 Peter chapter 4, verse 17, those whose names are not blotted out from the book, Revelation 3, verse 5, will comprise the church, among whom are to be 144,000 sons of Jacob. Revelation 7, verse 3 to 8. And when Michael stands up, then those whose names are left in the book will be delivered from the trouble such as never was. Daniel 12, verse 1. So the statement is very plain. Among the congregation of the living, there will be only 144,000 that will be left in the Lamb's Book of Life. Our goal is to study when such predicted event will occur, the blotting out of names among the congregation of the living. We can rest assured that the only names that will be left in the Lamb's Book of Life among the congregation of the living under the seventh seal, which is categorized by the Shepherd's Rod as well as the Bible as the worshippers, is 144,000. That is the absolute fact. Although we do not know who are they, only God knows. But we do know that on the last and final day of atonement, the only names that will be left written in the Lamb's Book of Life are 144,000 in number. So we need now to study closely the prophecy and studying the 144,000. Why we need to study the 144,000? Because we want to be among that special company. And to be among that special company, we need to study the characteristics given in the Bible. And the reason that the Bible give the characteristics or the attitude of the 144,000 even before they were born, so that each of us individually could apply the description given in the Word of God to be a part of our life, so that we will be among the 144,000 living saints. And the very first characteristic is they have no guile in their mouth. And one of the explanation given by the Shepherd's Rod is that they never criticize and they never have that spirit fault-finding. So that is one of the prominent characteristics of the 144,000 living saints. To strive to be among that number, then let us apply that characteristics in our individual life. Now, I would like to read first here in the Old Symbolic Code. Old Symbolic Code. Let's read here on 5 Symbolic Code, 1 to 5, page 11. 5 Symbolic Code, number 1 to 5, page 11. It says, we should be like Paul. 5 Symbolic Code, 1 to 5, page 11. We should be like Paul and press toward the mark or the prize of the high calling of God in Christ Jesus. Let us therefore, as many as be perfect, 144,000, be thus minded. And if anything ye be otherwise minded, God shall reveal even this unto you. Philippians 3, verse 14 and 15. God is striving now to do something for us, but He cannot until we submit our tongues to Him. The longer we put off making this surrender, the more we hinder His intentions for us as His people. And what we do not do in times of peace, we will have to do in times of trouble. He that will love life and seek good days, let him refrain his tongue from evil, and his lips that they speak no guile. 1 Peter chapter 3, verse 10. Let us be careful in our speech, so that we speak nothing which we ought not. 1 Timothy 5:13. For in many things we offend all. James chapter 3, verse 2. It says, some may even think that they are doing good in God's service by giving to others private information on things which concern God's work and His workers only, whereas such presumption is indeed an offense to all and a great harm to God's cause. Some do not understand the fullness of the warfare between Christ and Satan. Neither are they conscious when they are criticizing, gossiping, or passing out important information about the work of God. Yea, even more, causing others to form against the institution opinions which would prejudice them against it for eternity. So, 5 Symbolic Code, 1 to 5, page 11. So, I would like to read again, brethren, because I feel the seriousness of this matter. And I would like to read White House Recruiter on page 11. It says, what is of first and supreme importance? What is of first and supreme importance to each, however, is to know for a surety that his name is written in the book. To have this most blessed assurance, one must first know what will keep one's name out of the book and what will put it in. White House Recruiter on page 11. So it's very important to know what will keep one's name out of the book and what will put it in. So, to repeat again, brothers and sisters, this subject it is a life and death matter. And it is very important that we consider such subject, brothers and sisters, as a very serious subject. That we need not to just make fun. Such predicted event, blotting out of names. Now, I would like to focus first our attention to the three steps of salvation. First, righteousness by grace, righteousness by faith, and then the reward, which is the righteousness of Christ. So there are 3 steps. And for me, I do fully believe that such description concerning the 144,000 living saints, that they have the same experience, it must be referred to the occurrence in heaven as well as on the earth. I would like to read 1 SR page 24. It says, again, they sing a new song, which no man can learn save the 144,000. For it is the song of their experience, an experience such as no other company have ever had. How can it be possible for all to sing the same song if it is a song of their experience, except they all have the same experience? So here the voice of inspiration says that all of them have the same experience. Now, let us focus our attention to the occurrence in the heavenly sanctuary. Let me read to you here on the Old Symbolic Code. Here in the Old Symbolic Code, 1 Symbolic Code, number 10, page 9. 1 Symbolic Code, number 10, page 9, it says, thus Ezekiel 9 is applicable at two different times. First, at the time of the separating of the first fruits, the 144,000, and second, at the time of the separation of the second fruits, the great multitude of Revelation 7, verse 9. So, in that reading, we can easily discern that the 144,000 and the great multitude, both of them will experience Ezekiel 9, according to this reading, applied to them both. So, the statement given, and I would like to read, one Symbolic Code, number 15, page 8. Let's read. If the 144,000 sing the song, which no other company can, it being a song of experience, why cannot the great multitude sing this song of experience? This song of experience too, if they have also lived through the 7 last plagues and are translated. Answer, it says, it will be noted that the shepherd's rod is stating this of the 144,000 in comparison with the dead and not with the great multitude. However, the 144,000 have the experience of Ezekiel 9, which the great multitude do not possess. And this is the difference. So, this statement cannot be applied to the occurrence on earth because we already read, right? The shepherd's rod made it so plain that in one Symbolic Code number 10, page 9, the great multitude will experience also Ezekiel 9 on earth, brothers and sisters. Although not all great multitude will experience Ezekiel 9. Because the great multitude is divided into 3. Sabbath keepers, then the second one is the converts among the Sunday keeping Christians, and the third one is the non-Christian world. So there are 3 classes of the great multitude, and only those great multitude, Sabbath keepers, will experience Ezekiel 9. And they are the one that have been categorized by the shepherd's rod as not defiled with women. The 144,000 living saints is spiritual Israel. Yes, they are not defiled with women. But the shepherd's rod plainly told us on tract number 9 on page 56 that there are also some from the second fruits which is not defiled with women. So, tract number 9, page 56, it says, to gather a class defiled with women as second fruits. This class of saints must be those who have at one time been married to some unchristian mistress, a heathen church, and who consequently are not descendants of either Jacob or the Christian church. So there are to be 2 harvests, one from the church and one from the world. The record of the former mentions only Israelites, the 144,000, those not defiled with women, though it does not say that there may not be others, while the record of the latter, however, definitely embraces a great multitude from all nations, which must necessarily be both of undefiled and defiled ones, Jews and Gentiles. So the Jews mentioned there must be Sabbath keepers. So there are the undefiled constituent of the great multitude, and they will be the one who will experience Ezekiel 9. Also in tract number 3, page 72, tract number 3 on page 72, it says, and the second gives the second fruits, the great multitude from all nations, some of whom also may be undefiled with women, heathen churches. So to repeat again, the statement that the great multitude will never experience Ezekiel 9 cannot be strictly applied to the earth, to the occurrence on the earth, because some of the constituent of the great multitude on this earth, they will experience Ezekiel 9, the one we read in one Symbolic Code number 10, page 9. And they are those who are not defiled with women. So the only thing that by which the great multitude will never experience, all of them, is the proceedings in the heavenly sanctuary, by which it is called the fulfillment of Ezekiel 9. Now, I would like to read again the statement. And 2SR 216, it says, the purification of the church, 2SR 216, the purification of the church, the separation of the tares from the wheat, the fulfillment of Ezekiel 9. 2SR 216, the purification of the church, the separation of the tares from the wheat, the fulfillment of Ezekiel 9. And we know that the separation of the tares from the wheat in the heavenly sanctuary is the removal of the names of the wicked in the Lamb's Book of Life. And before such names will be removed, there must be investigation first. And that investigation, that is the experience by which the great multitude do not possess. Why? Because the divine command do not measure the great multitude. So let's read tract number 5, page 110. Tract number 5 on page 110. It says, the court, in other words, is symbolical of the immeasurable or innumerable harvest of second fruits, brought in after the measurable or numerable harvest of first fruits, the 144,000. It is not measured, meaning investigated. So, the great multitude will no longer be investigated. Where? In the holy place. It says, it is not measured, investigated, because it represents those among whom there are no bad to be cast out, for they are gathered in after the cleansing of the heavenly temple. Daniel 8 verse 14. Now, it says, after the cleansing of the heavenly temple. So, the entire constituent of the great multitude, which no man could number, all of them will no longer undergo the proceedings in the holy place, which we call investigative judgment, which is blotting out of names or the removal of the names of the wicked, due to the fact that at the time when their names will be written in the Lamb's Book of Life, there will be no more names of the wicked to be inscribed therein. Therefore, no more investigation, no more blotting out of names. So that is the specific occurrence by which the great multitude do not possess the experience of blotting out of names. Now, let us focus to the 144,000, by which they have the same experience. In reality, that statement also is even more definitely applied to the proceedings in the heavenly sanctuary rather than the occurrence on this earth. Because logically, every one of us have different experiences without any doubts. But that statement is also even more definitely applied in the heavenly sanctuary. And first, that experience that all of us have the same experience, more particularly to the constituent of the 144,000 living saints, is that, brothers and sisters, their names or our names had been retained in the Lamb's Book of Life through the righteousness by grace. So we need to understand what is righteousness by grace. So I would like to read the statement on 2TG 39 on pages 3 and 4. It says, we are called into the election of God, says the scripture, not because of any good works of our own, but through God's grace. Now, that illustration in the heavenly sanctuary is the same with the illustration why we will reach the literal premillennial kingdom or physical kingdom. And according to the shepherd's rod, that God did not deliver us, brought us into Mount Zion because we are worthy. So I would like to read that in statement. But only because God wants to vindicate His name, not because we are good. I would like to read that 1 2TG 46:37. It says, note how clear these verses make the picture that 2TG 46:37. Note how clear these verses make the picture that what God does for His people, He does not because they are worthy of it. So He does not because they are worthy of it, but for the sake of his own name. That he does it not before, but after he takes them out of all countries and bring them into their own land. That he then and there cleanses them and changes their hearts, all of which shows that as long as his people are commingled with the tares and live among the Gentiles, they can never be fitted for translation. Obviously, therefore, the land of our fathers to be our final and superb dressing chamber, to fit us for the society of pure, sinless, eternal beings. Let me see another statement. BT out of saying that God did not deliver us because we are good. Synonymous to that statement. But because God wants to vindicate His great name. So it is not because of our goodness, brothers and sisters, that we have been delivered. It is not because of our goodness by which, or it is not because we are worthy of such deliverance, but because of God's mercy, or we still call it through His grace. 2 TG 42:40, it says, according to this, God restores the land to His people, not because they as a people are good, but because He wants to vindicate His own name among the heathen. Now, I would like to read to you on 1 TG number 12, on page 27. It says, our so-called good works alone, 1 TG number 12, page 27. Our so-called good works alone will not lead us out of Babylon, but our understanding the truth for this time and implicitly heeding God's call will. 1 TG number 12, page 27. So our so-called good works alone will not lead us out of Babylon, but our understanding the truth for this time and implicitly heeding God's call will. Implicitly heeding God's call. Now, I would like to go back to that announcement. Behold, the bridegroom cometh. We already read in 2SR page 181 saying, the midnight cry was first proclaimed prior to 1844, and the coming of the bridegroom was Christ's coming to the most holy place in the heavenly sanctuary for the investigative judgment of the saints. So, that is the message of the midnight cry. Christ coming to the most holy place in the heavenly sanctuary for the investigative judgment of the saints. Now, I will no longer read the entire paragraph. You can read at your own leisure. The shepherds had made it so plain that in reality, the parable in Matthew 25 is directly applied to the judgment that pertains to the living. Now, ponder deeply, brothers and sisters, and you yourself decide what does the written word of God hath declared. Now, I would like to read again Testimonies for the Church, Volume 2. Here in Testimonies for the Church, Volume 2, on page 192, it says, 190, Volume 2, page 190, Jesus has left us word. Watch ye therefore, for ye know not when the master of the house cometh, at even, or at midnight, or at the cock crowing, or in the morning, lest coming suddenly, he find you sleeping. And what I say unto you, I say unto all, watch. We are waiting and watching for the return of the master, who is to bring the morning, lest coming suddenly, he find us sleeping. What time is he referred to? Not to the revelation of Christ in the clouds of heaven to find a people asleep. No, but to his return from his ministration in the most holy place of the heavenly sanctuary, when he lays off his priestly attire and clothes himself with garments of vengeance. And when the mandate goes forth, he that is unjust, let him be unjust still. And he which is filthy, let him be filthy still. And he that is righteous, let him be righteous still. And he that is holy, let him be holy still. Now, in the Shepherd's Rod publications, I think we are familiar that there are two provisions. The clause of provision for the church and the clause of provision for the world. And I think, brethren, only the obedient or only the Shepherd's Rod believer have that knowledge by which we call it the spiritual side. And concerning the spiritual side, in the plan of redemption, it takes place in heaven. It takes place in heaven. And I do not know if we are really shepherd's rod believer. Because the shepherd's rod declared clearly that the first aspect of the judgment is bookwork. And such occurrence, it does not disturb either the dead in the graves or the living in the church. What does it mean? It does not disturb. There is no material side as yet. And that's what made them continually mocking and deriding God's people. Now, I would like to read answerer number 5 on page 30. If possible, I admonish or plead all the obedient to read the entire paragraph. But this time, I will just read the last sentence. It says, "This is the first aspect of the judgment, and being only a bookwork, a work that does not disturb either the dead in the graves or the living in the church, it takes place in heaven." So what is the first aspect of the judgment? Bookwork. Of course, the statement, a work that does not disturb either the dead in the graves, that is natural, because in the judgment that pertains to the dead, they were lying unconscious in their graves, according to answerer number 3, page 6. But even the living, when the judgment that pertains to the living takes place in the heavenly sanctuary, which is the first aspect of the judgment, which is bookwork, it does not disturb the living in the church. For the occurrence takes place in heaven. And because of that, brothers and sisters, I would like to read the Great Controversy. The Great Controversy, page 490 and 491. It says, "When the work of the investigative judgment closes," reading the Great Controversy, page 490, "when the work of the investigative judgment closes, the destiny of all will have been decided for life or death. Probation is ended a short time before the appearing of the Lord in the clouds of heaven. Christ in the Revelation, looking forward to that time, declares, 'He that is unjust, let him be unjust still. And he which is filthy, let him be filthy still. And he that is righteous, let him be righteous still. And he that is holy, let him be holy still. And behold, I come quickly, and my reward is with me, to give every man according as his work shall be.'" Revelation 22, verse 11 and 12. Then it says, "The righteous and the wicked will still be living upon the earth in their mortal state." This portion cannot be pointing to the second visible coming of Jesus Christ, because when the irrevocable decision will be pronounced in the heavenly sanctuary to the general close of provision for the world before the outpouring of the 7 last plagues, the saints at that time were already in their immortal state. Because, for example, Daniel 12, when they will be resurrected, immortality will be granted to them. Not only Daniel 12, as well as Ezekiel 37. All of them will be resurrected before the general close of provision. And that is why it's called spatial resurrection. But the absolute fact is that before they will be resurrected, as is stated in the parable of Matthew 20, it is the 11th hour call will be the first one to be rewarded, the 144,000. And at the time, the 144,000 will be rewarded, brothers and sisters. At that time, immortality is granted to them. So this event must be fulfilled before the righteous, before the living righteous, the 144,000 living saints had been granted immortality. Now, I would like to read again the statement here in the Great Controversy 490 and 491. "The righteous and the wicked will still be living upon the earth in their mortal state. Men will be planting and building, eating and drinking, all unconscious that the final irrevocable decision has been pronounced in the sanctuary above." All. What does it mean by the word all? Without exemption. What is the final irrevocable decision that has been pronounced in the sanctuary above? That is the time when all the names, the unworthy names, will be removed, will be blotted out. And all the righteous, they were unconscious. And the mere fact that the Bible, this prophecy says all, meaning all of them. The 144,000 living saints have the same experience. And why is it that their names had been retained in the Lamb's Book of Life? No, not because they are good, brothers and sisters, but because of God's grace. Now, why is it that those people had been blotted out? Why, brothers and sisters? I would like to read first Testimonies for the Church in volume 5, 600, 690. Maybe you can read the entire paragraph, brothers and sisters. So, it says here, let the seeds of doubt once be sown in their hearts. They will have an abundant harvest to reap. They will come to mistrust and disbelieve truths which are plain and full of beauty to others who have not educated themselves in unbelief. Volume 5, page 690. Those who train the mind to seize upon everything which they can use as a peg to hang a doubt upon and suggest these thoughts to other minds will always find occasion to doubt. They will question and criticize everything that arises in the unfolding of truth, criticize the work and position of others, criticize every branch of the work in which they have not themselves a part. They will feed upon the errors and mistakes and faults of others until, said the angel, the Lord Jesus shall rise up from his mediatorial work in the heavenly sanctuary and shall clothe himself with the garments of vengeance. For sure, this description is the same in volume 2, 190, right? So let us make a comparison with the statement in Testimonies for the Church, volume 2, on page 190. So let's read and compare the statement. In volume 2, page 190, it says, no, but to his return from his ministration in the most holy place of the heavenly sanctuary, when he lays off his priestly attire and clothed himself with garments of vengeance. So let us focus our attention to that predicted event, that Jesus Christ clothed himself with the garments of vengeance. And in the vision of Sister White in volume 2, that is the time when the irrevocable decision had been pronounced in the heavenly sanctuary, right? Testimonies for the Church, volume 2, 190. It says, when he lays off his priestly attire and clothed himself with garments of vengeance, and when the mandate goes forth, he that is unjust, let him be unjust still, and he which is filthy, let him be filthy still, and he that is righteous, let him be righteous still, and he that is holy, let him be holy still. It is called, in the Great Controversy 490, irrevocable decision. Now, brothers and sisters, there are two occurrences that Jesus Christ will pronounce the irrevocable decision. Now, let us go first to the occurrence in the general clause of provision. In the general clause of provision, at the time when Jesus Christ will pronounce the irrevocable decision in the heavenly sanctuary, all the constituent of the great multitude, Revelation 7 verse 9, were already gathered into the premillennial kingdom. The only saints by which at that time are not yet in the premillennial kingdom is the saints that will be resurrected at the second visible coming of Jesus Christ. At that time, those under the first seal, the second seal, the fourth seal, and the fifth seal, they were still lying unconscious in their graves because they will be resurrected at the second visible coming of Jesus Christ. But the others, brothers and sisters, more particularly to Matthew 20, the first call, the second call, the third call, the fourth call, and the fifth call, all of them were already in the kingdom, and immortality was granted to them, as well as the great multitude, Revelation 7 verse 9. And of course, they are the only righteous at that time, which is already living, the resurrected saints and the translated saints. The fifth call, we know that is the 144,000 living saints. Now, in this pronouncement of the irrevocable decision in the heavenly sanctuary, in the general clause of provision, would you think the righteous in the premillennial kingdom, they were unconscious to the fact that the irrevocable decision was already pronounced in the heavenly sanctuary? Think it thoroughly. And second, the statement in the Great Controversy 490, at that time, when the irrevocable decision had been pronounced in the heavenly sanctuary, the righteous are still in their mortal state. Or in other words, since when the saints will be resurrected, immortality will be granted to them, indicates that the pronouncement of the irrevocable decision in the heavenly sanctuary is stated in the Great Controversy, page 490, is at the time when the righteous are still in their mortal state. It is in the time when the 144,000 living saints were not as yet granted immortality. But the voice of inspiration made it so plain that at that time when the irrevocable decision had been pronounced in the heavenly sanctuary, the righteous, I will not focus to the wicked, only to the righteous. All of them are unconscious. That is the description given in the Great Controversy 490. But although they were unconscious, their names were not blotted out. Why? Why is it that their names, because the wicked also unconscious, but the names of the wicked were blotted out. Let's go back again to analyze the Great Controversy 490. When would be the irrevocable decision will be pronounced? That is the time when the names of the wicked will be blotted out. Now, why is it that the names of the wicked had been blotted out? If you will say, because they were unconscious. No, the statement declared, both the righteous and the wicked, all of them are unconscious. But why is it that the righteous, the 144,000, all of them, they were unconscious. They did not know that the blotting out of names were already finished. They did not know. But why is it that their names had not been blotted out? The wicked, they did not know, but their names had been blotted out. What made them righteous and wicked? And it was explained. Because of our attitude, brothers and sisters, the description of the 144,000, they never criticize, they never have that spirit fault-finding. Now, I would like to read again the statement. Tract number 1 on page 23. It says, and they are without guile in their mouths, and they are without guile in their mouths, having kept their tongues from criticizing and fault-finding. So they kept their tongues from criticizing and fault-finding. And this is the statement given by the vision of the prophet. Because these people, it seems that they trained their minds to criticize and to find fault. So let us read again. Volume 5, page 690. It says, they will feed upon the errors and mistakes and fault of others. They will feed upon the errors and mistakes and faults of others until, said the angel, the Lord Jesus shall rise up from his mediatorial work in the heavenly sanctuary and clothe himself with the garments of vengeance and surprise them at their unholy feast, and they will find themselves unprepared for the marriage supper of the Lamb. Their taste has been so perverted that they would be inclined to criticize even the table of the Lord in his kingdom. Volume 5, page 690. Now, look at the admonition given by the shepherd's rod in tract number 1. It says here, tract number 1 on page 24. Tract number 1, page 24. To repeat again, there are only 2 periods of time by which the irrevocable decision will be pronounced in the heavenly sanctuary. First, in the church, and second, in the world. And one of the prominent description by which they differ, the one from the other, is that in the general clause of provision for the world, when such irrevocable decision will be pronounced in the heavenly sanctuary, Jesus Christ will clothe himself with the garments King of Kings and Lord of Lords, not the garments of vengeance. Now, here in early writings, it says here, early writings page 281, then I saw Jesus lay off his priestly attire and clothe himself with his most kingly robes. Early writings page 281. Then I saw Jesus lay off his priestly attire and clothe himself with his most kingly robes. Therefore, that event could not be the event in the vision says, Jesus Christ lay off of his priestly attire and clothed himself with the garments of vengeance. volume 2, page 190. It says, when he lays off his priestly attire and clothed himself with garments of vengeance. And I remember the statement on Christ and his, I think, Christ and his righteousness. Let me see. Consecrated way to Christian perfection on page 4. I would like to read page 4. This threefold truth is generally recognized by all who have acquaintance with the scriptures. Consecrated way to Christian perfection, page 4. This threefold truth is generally recognized by all who have acquaintance with the scriptures. But above this, there is the truth which seems to be not so well known, that he is not all three of these at the same time. The three offices are successive. He is a prophet first, then after that he is a priest, and after that he is king. So, in this reading, we can easily discern, brothers and sisters, that the offices of Jesus Christ is illustrated by his robe. Now, let us go back again. In volume 2, page 190, when Jesus Christ lays off his priestly attire, he clothed himself, what garments? Garments of vengeance. But in the general clause of provision, in early writings, page 281, he will wear his most kingly robes. So that is very plain in early writings, page 281. Then I saw Jesus lay off his priestly attire and clothe himself with his most kingly robes. So that event is distinct and separate, my dear brothers and sisters. So, now let's go back. That event by which the irrevocable decision had been pronounced in the heavenly sanctuary, by which at that time Jesus Christ, after the pronouncement of the irrevocable decision, Jesus Christ will clothe himself with the garments of vengeance. So let's read here in tract number 1. Tract number 1 on page 24, it says, these solemn words. What solemn words? Found in volume 5, page 690. When the Lord Jesus shall rise up from his mediatorial work in the heavenly sanctuary and clothe himself with the garments of vengeance. So let's read the statement, tract number 1, page 24. These solemn words, may it lay well to heart, and may none let the enemy beguile them with good words and fair speeches. On this life and death matter, you see, this occurrence, this event, it is a life and death matter, brethren. It says, fix in your mind the fact that Christ rising up from his mediatorial work cannot be after probation has closed. So, that time when Jesus Christ will rise up from his mediatorial work in the heavenly sanctuary, in the most holy place, on the general clause of provision, the description is that he will wear his most kingly robes. And the shepherds have declared clearly that this event by which he will clothe himself with the garments of vengeance cannot be after probation has closed. And then it says, for note carefully, he is to rise up during the unfolding of truth. During the unfolding of truth. If you will read Answerer number 2 on page 68, the same passage, volume 5, page 690. Now let us read Answerer number 2, page 68. Viewing the question in the light of both statements, we see that Christ leaves the sanctuary at a certain time in the unrolling of the scroll. Coming to the church, he finds her not spotless and ready to meet him, but deep in sin, yet self-complacently feeding upon the errors, faults, and mistakes of others. Now, brothers and sisters, this statement cannot be applied to the general clause of provision. Because if that is general clause of provision, would you think the saints at that time are still, brothers and sisters, deep in sin, feeding upon the errors, faults, and mistakes of others? So take it thoroughly. This statement is very plain, predicting the event. And it seems that what the shepherds had declared, what the spirit prophecy declared, is now even fulfilling. Because when Jesus Christ rise up from his mediatorial work in the heavenly sanctuary and he visits the earth, this is what's happening now. I remember that statement in I think track number 6. Track number 6 on page, I think 73 and page 74. I would like to read the reading. Track number 6. It says, rather than raising your voices against the truth, raise them in praises of it and of the Lord. For He has charged you fully to your ignorance of the truth. If you return to Him at this final warning, this is the last final warning message. I would like to read again. Rather than raising your voices against the truth, raise them in praises of it and of the Lord. For He has charged you fully to your ignorance of the truth. Ignorance. They were unconscious that the blotting out of names will already finish. That Jesus Christ at this time already clothed Himself with the garments of vengeance. And He says, if you return to Him at this final warning, He will gladly receive you and command His servants to clothe you with His best robe, Christ's righteousness. Isaiah 52, verse 1. Look at the statement in the old Symbolic Code. To Symbolic Code number 11, page 8. To Symbolic Code number 11, page 8. It says, this experience will awaken them as if startled out of their dreams and will enable them to receive the power of the Spirit and to put on the beautiful garments of Christ's righteousness, which give by the prophet's pleading. He is urging us to receive Isaiah 52 verse 1. The prophet is now pleading to receive the righteousness of Christ. It says, however, no one with prejudice and self-confidence can ever come to the knowledge of the truth. To Symbolic Code number 11 on page 8. Now, let us ponder deeply, brothers and sisters. I do fully believe that there are 144,000 living saints scattered throughout the whole world, by which they did not criticize, they did not do such evil work, speaking evil to other people, but rather they are among, as stated in 1 TG number 16, page 30. This is their attitude, that they are to speak well of everyone. 1 TG number 16, page 30. That they are to speak well of everyone. No longer will they waste their breath or time talking of the sins of others. That never will they busy themselves with other people's concerns. 1 TG number 16 on page 30. Now look at this statement in 1 TG number 5 on page 18. 1 TG number 5 on page 18. I would like to read the statement. It says here, 1 TG number 5 on page 18. It says, you know for a fact that there is not one who names himself a Christian that talks outright against God. That is the reality. How much more to the Davidian? Not even one among them that will talk outright against God. But of course, their mouth will open, praising God. But look at the statement. It says, what professed Christians really do, is say things against God's revealed truth. Apology. Forgive me if it is not appropriate. Brothers and sisters, prophecy must be fulfilled. You need to study the book of Daniel, because prophecy will never tell a lie. It is in the third period of the exceeding great horn that the daily and the sanctuary had been trodden underfoot completely. Would you think the Bible is not telling the whole truth? Now, for example, in 2SR page 139, I would like to read. It says, these are facts which cannot be denied. However, there is another fruit that bears evidence of the same. Said the prophet, and after thee, king of Babylon, shall arise another kingdom inferior to thee, and another third kingdom of brass, which shall be rule over all the earth. Daniel 2 verse 39. That's why the title, it says, the horn bears rule over all the earth. Do you believe what the Bible had declared? Who will be rule over all the earth? The brass kingdom. But the shepherd's rod says, the brass kingdom is accepted to represent Grecia, but the fact is that Grecia never did be rule over all the earth. So the statement is very plain. Then it says, what then? Is Daniel wrong in the interpretation of the dream? If there is any error, Daniel cannot be at fault. The responsibility would naturally fall on God, who was the overseer of all the writings and the interpretation of the scriptures. If Daniel had made a mistake, it was God's duty to have him correct it. But God is perfect in all his word. He cannot allow error in his holy word. Daniel is correct in his interpretation, and the brass kingdom must be ruled over all the earth, for all else may fail, but God's word shall stand forever. Now, what does it mean that the brass kingdom shall be ruled over all the earth? It's easy, brothers and sisters. Who will be ruled over all the earth? The exceeding great horn. According to SR 139, it says, the horn bears rule over all the earth. That is the exceeding great horn. And the exceeding great horn has 3 periods: pagan, papal, and Protestant period. Tract number 3 on page 39. It says, and as the great horn of the he-goat is symbolical of the Roman world in its 3 periods, represented by the iron in Daniel 2 verse 40, first pagan, ecclesiastical, and Protestant. So there are 3 periods: period of pagan Rome, period of papal Rome, and the Protestant period. So the thought of the matter is that the brass, according to tract number 2 on page 13, while brass being third to gold, tract number 2, page 13, while brass being third to gold precisely fits the third empire, Grecia, and consequently has the numerical value of 3. So the declaration in Daniel 2 verse 39 can be easily understood that it is not in the first period, it is not in the second period of the exceeding great horn that the horn bears rule over all the earth, but it is in the third period over all the earth, brothers and sisters. And without any doubts, the earth mentioned there is the symbolical earth, which points unmistakably to the United States of America, as is stated in the Great Controversy 440, which is also called the Protestant world, the Protestant America. Because in the third period of the exceeding great horn, which is the Protestant period, the only sanctuary is the Seventh-day Adventist Church. We know that the Protestant period commenced after the Dark Ages. According to 2TG number 22 on page 22, it says, following this came the Protestant period, the period of religious freedom, white theme. So what does it mean by following this? Following the Dark Ages of religion. 2TG 22, page 22. And the shepherd's rod made it so plain. In 2SR 140, it says, had Daniel said of the nondescript beast, symbol of imperial and papal Rome, that it would be ruled over all the earth, the claim would prove incorrect. So the statement is very plain. If you will say that it is the pagan Rome or is it the papal Rome that fulfill the prophecy that the horn be ruled over all the earth, that claim proved incorrect. Why? Because you cannot use the word all if there is still group of people by which the devil failed to darken their understanding concerning the daily and the sanctuary. During pagan Rome, the apostolic church were still there. And during the period of papacy, the shepherd's rod made it so plain. There is a woman by which they have knowledge concerning the daily and the sanctuary. I would like to read 2SR page 142. 2SR page 142. It says, again note that the truth was cast down and the woman, the church had fled into the wilderness. Inspiration says she had a place prepared of God that they should feed here there. See verses 6 and 14. So while the truth was cast down by the church leadership in that period and the abomination set up, God had some in obscurity who keep his Sabbath and had knowledge of the sanctuary truth through the entire 1,260 years of wilderness journey. 2SR page 142. But that event must be fulfilled. The shepherd's rod says, anyone else may commit mistake, but God never. And it is God who declared it, that in the third period of the exceeding great horn bears rule over all the earth. What does it mean? That in the fulfillment of the prophecy, the entire symbolical earth, they have no knowledge what is going on in the heavenly sanctuary. And in tract number 4, I would like to read tract number 4 on page 26. Note that the truth and the place, not the sanctuary itself, were cast down. Yes, the sanctuary has been cast down. Or in other words, the Seventh-day Adventist Church, in reality, they were in total darkness, in total ignorance concerning the proceedings that took place in the heavenly sanctuary. But it is not the sanctuary itself, but the place itself. The symbolical earth, it says, brothers and sisters, were cast down. That is, both Christ's truth and His place in the early sanctuary were set aside, so that the knowledge as to His mediatorial work became obscured. You cannot change the fact. You could no longer alter the reality, because the Bible will never tell a lie. But our merciful God, through His mercy, the names of the 144,000 had been left written in the Lamb's Book of Life. Not because that they are good, not because they are worthy, but because of God's grace. But one of the prominent attitude and act which causes their names to be left written in the Lamb's Book of Life is that they keep their tongues in criticizing brothers and sisters. And it's really hard to imagine those people who are mocking, speaking evil, criticizing brothers and sisters. We only vindicate the truthfulness of the event in the heavenly sanctuary. That those names that had been blotted out, those names that had been removed in the heavenly sanctuary, you can see in their attitude. They are those people who perverted their taste, that they trained their mind in such attitude. Now, I would like to read again the statement here in 1 TG number 5, page 18. It says here, let's read again. 1 TG number 5, page 18. You know for a fact that there is not one who names himself a Christian that talks outright against God. What professed Christians really do is say things against God's revealed truth. This is God's revealed truth, the truth of the sanctuary, without realizing that they are talking and sinning against the Holy Ghost and thus against God Himself too. So, this statement in 2 TG, if you will observe the grammatical rule as admonished us by the shepherd's rod in 2SR 118, this grammatical rule is followed in the scriptures, and it is one way to recognize present truth. Now observe the grammatical rule. Here is stated in 2 TG number 11, page 13. It says, when the judgment of the living begins, and the cry is made, behold, the bridegroom cometh, go ye out to meet him. They will all arise, but only half of them will gain admittance. The other half will have sinned against the Holy Spirit. It did not say, the other half, they had sinned against the Holy Spirit. But inscribed in future tense, the other half will have sinned against the Holy Spirit, will have rejected His truth. It's easy to discern that God, being an almighty God, omnipotent God, He knoweth everything from the beginning to the end. Brothers and sisters, those names that had been blotted out, God knoweth beforehand that they will never change. They will continue such attitude, brothers and sisters. And by what they are doing now is only a vindication that God's work is perfect. I would like to read the statement here in for Symbolic Code 1 to 3, page 8 and 9. It says, I saw that all the religion a few for souls have consist in watching the garments and acts of others. For Symbolic Code 1 to 3, page 8. I saw that all the religion a few for souls have consist in watching the garments and acts of others and finding fault with them. unless they reform, there will be no place in heaven for them, for they would find fault with the Lord Himself. So that statement saying their taste had been subverted. Now let's go back again to the reading. In 1TG number 5, page 18. In the next paragraph, it says, even some present truth believers, 1TG number 5, page 18. Even some present truth believers now and then drop a word of criticism. It's hard to imagine, brothers and sisters. You know, the true people of God, those people by which their sins have been pardoned by Jesus Christ, the only thing that they will do is to exalt the message, to share the present truth. Brothers and sisters, that's the only thing that we need to do. I remember in Desire of Ages 498, it says, the best way to deal error is to present the truth. And here it says, 1TG number 5, page 18, even some present truth believers now and then drop a word of criticism, saying things by which to bolster their own reputation and down on others, or to win someone to their way of thinking at the expense of God's cause. These kinds of sins are the most insidious. And we are sighing and crying for the abominations in order to receive the seal of the living God. But all of the sins, according to this reading, this is the most insidious. It says, and the greater the ability of the one that is engaged in such practices, the greater the damage. Brothers and sisters, ponder deeply the occurrence in the days of Noah. Ponder deeply. It says in 1TG number 12, page 27, it says, those who doubted Noah's announcement of the flood, 1TG 12:27, those who doubted Noah's announcement of the flood, and who scoffed at the idea that they should enter the ark for safety at a time when there was not even the slightest sign of threatening rain. When does Noah enter to the ark? At the time when there was not even the slightest sign of threatening rain. And that history is repeating today. When we proclaim, we announce that the cleansing of the sanctuary is finished, what does it mean? When the cleansing of the sanctuary will be finished, then commence the cleansing on the earth, which is the sealing time of the 144,000 living saints. That is the focal point of that knowledge that had been bestowed by God to us, so that we need to prepare our lives to obtain the seal of the living God. But they mock, brothers and sisters. Why? Because there was no threatening sign of God's vengeance. The same as in the days of Noah, there was no threatening sign. But when the judgment of God will begin to fall, the same as in the days of Noah, everything ceased to be funny. Yes, you are making fun. You can see on Facebook, they were making fun. But the time will come, brethren, that everything ceased to be funny. Here in 1TG number 50, page 15, it says, Noah and his family also went in, while the rest of the world laughed and ridiculed. While the rest of the world laughed and ridiculed. But when the rain began to fall, the situation ceased to be funny. The situation ceased to be funny. Those outside the ark cried, mourned, plead, but all perished as fools, only because they had failed to give heed to present truth, had failed to feed on meat in due season. What folly! What disaster! 1TG number 50, page 15. And one of the, can you project that statement? I think in to us are saying that heaven is satisfied. And the time will come, brothers and sisters, that when God will show to us during that 1,000 years, all the names that had been blotted out, all of us will be satisfied. Why is it that their names had been blotted out? The statement saying that heaven is satisfied. I think that is in 2SR. I want to, the statements, I think, Revelation chapter 5. When I would like to read here. Revelation chapter 5, verse 12, 13, and 14. It says, saying with a loud voice, worthy is the Lamb that was slain to receive power and riches and wisdom and strength and honor and glory and blessing. And every creature which is in heaven and on the earth and under the earth, and such as are in the sea and all that are in them heard I saying, Blessing and honor and glory and power be unto him that sitteth upon the throne and unto the Lamb forever and ever. Revelation 5 verses 12 and 13. And I think that is the verse by which B.T. Hotep says, indicates that heaven is satisfied, brothers and sisters, satisfied of the love of God. So I would like to read. And those who understand the plan of redemption. So it says here, the scriptures quoted proves, to us our page 200, Revelation chapter 5, which is the heart and the key of the subject of the seven seals. The scripture quoted proves that the entire universe is satisfied with the love of God and the righteousness of Christ. So, one of the significance is that the entire universe is satisfied with the love of God and the righteousness of Christ. Or, in other words, in this study, the time will come that we could really appreciate the justice that had been bestowed by God to all humanity. That there is justice at all. Why is it that these people, their names had not been blotted out? And why is it that these people, their names had been removed and blotted out? Whatever the decision made by Jesus Christ, there is an absolute justice and equality. So, it always reminds me the statement in 2SR 198 saying, our attitude, so it is our attitude, 2SR 198, our attitude towards present truth. So our attitude towards present truth would either make a tree good and his fruit good, or else make the tree corrupt and his fruit corrupt. For the tree is known by his fruit. So it is our attitude, brothers and sisters. Now let us go back again. Let us make a short summary and then we'll proceed to the next episode. There are two events, different events, by which Jesus Christ will pronounce the irrevocable decision in the heavenly sanctuary. And it was illustrated by his garments. The first one is, when he will pronounce the irrevocable decision, he will lay off of his priestly attire and clothe himself with the garments of vengeance. And the next period is that when he lays off of his priestly attire, he will clothe himself with his most kingly robes, King of Kings and Lord of Lords. And that event by which Jesus Christ will clothe himself with the garments of vengeance, according to 1SR. Let's read again. On page 151. While God will come with vengeance to some, and to whom that Jesus Christ will come vengeance? To the people who are continually speaking evil, criticizing, brothers and sisters, they will be the one by which Jesus Christ will come with them with vengeance. It says in 1SR 151, while God will come with vengeance to some, He comes with salvation to others, and hoping that we place ourselves on the right side. In tract number 1, on page 24, it says, let each take heed that he fall not to criticize the message. Look at them, how they criticize the message, saying, March 27, 2021, while in reality, they themselves know nothing concerning the proceedings in the heavenly sanctuary, but they were jeopardizing their eternal welfare. It says here, brothers and sisters, in tract number 1, page 24, let each take heed that he fall not to criticize the message or the messengers, but rather that he sigh and cry as the Lord bids for all the abominations that be done in the midst. What is the statement in 1 TGF number 5, page 18? Of all the sins that is the most insidious, that sins that criticizing the message, brothers and sisters. Let us distinctly separate correcting the message and criticizing the message. Because if you are correcting the message, you provided proof and you did not criticize. For example, if I will just say to the Sunday keeper, you are bad, you are whatever derogatory remarks, then I am criticizing. But if I will only present to them, to show to them that Sunday, which is the first day of the week, is not the rest day recorded in the Bible. The true rest day recorded in the Bible is the seventh day, the Saturday, the Sabbath of the Lord. No, I am not criticizing them. I am trying to correct them into the right doctrine. But if we will just open your mouth, brothers and sisters, saying something which is not in reality beneficial, and then saying, look at the followers of this false prophet, they are foolish. Look at them. It's very disheartening. And I never expect that such attitude can be found among the media, because I expect that of all the people in the world, the media is the most respected because they have the shepherd's rod. We have the complete instruction, but it is quite opposite. Although I still love you, my dear brothers and sisters, God knoweth, we are fervently praying, that hoping that God will forgive our ignorance and our attitude. It says here in tract number 1, page 24, let it take heed that he fall not to criticize the message or the messengers, but rather that he sigh and cry as the Lord bids for all the abominations that be done in the midst of the church, lest he be found on the wrong side. Lest he be found on the wrong side, reigns with the evildoers, and thus doomed to fall under the angels is louder weapons. So it says here in 1SR 151, while God will come with vengeance to some, He comes with salvation to others, hoping that we are these people by which God visited this earth to grant unto us salvation. And the Redeemer shall come to Zion. It says, and the Redeemer shall come to Zion. This is not referring to the second coming of Christ in the clouds, for it takes place before probation closes. For it takes place before probation closes. He's not coming with vengeance to the ungodly in the world, but coming to the church. And when He comes, He will do the work mentioned in Malachi 3, verses 1 to 3. Brothers and sisters, to repeat again, this message is a life and death matter. It is a very serious message, brothers and sisters. And, well, my only duty is to proclaim the message, and to the ability and capacity that had been given by God to me, I'm trying my best to save all brethren, more particularly to all shepherd's rod believers. We love you, hoping, brothers and sisters, that we could see each other when God will establish the everlasting kingdom and gather all His people. Thank you very much for listening and viewing this program. May the good Lord bless you and have a beautiful, wonderful evening.